I'm personally endorsing Ron Paul for President of the United States for 2012. I really want people to start looking up this dude Ron Paul, because a lot of stuff he says makes perfect sense. It's like common sense.
Look at the Republican field. I see, Palin, Bachmann, Pawlenty, Mitt Romney, Donald Trump. I think is talking about it. Some interesting people, some smart people in that mix. There's no way any of them are better than you for the Republican nomination. Let's just be serious. I do know the way that you frame the debate around the issues that this country faces is the most honest of almost any politician that I deal with. Do you not have an obligation at this point to run for president?
As a Democratic nominee, I'd consider Ron Paul. Because I think that he's someone who has integrity, he has vision, has courage.
Guy Ron Paul, he's my new hero. You just never heard this logic from someone who's actually going to run the country. Got Ben Affleck here, they're screaming for Ron Paul.
Right. The guy I would have really voted for, had he been a candidate, the guy I'd have really voted for in your election is Ron Paul.
I say this with amazement, but it's becoming more and more clear that we live in the age of Ron Paul, Judge. I mean, you stop and think about it. Who's the father of the Tea Party? It's Ron Paul. I mean, Ron Paul's the guy who began the conversation about debt, deficit, high taxes, government intrusion, and initially he was viewed as an extremist, an outsider in terms of the Republican establishment, somebody to be ignored. He's the guy that's from the start raised questions about U.S. involvement overseas in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. He's been saying these things, and the Republican establishment has treated him like he's their loony uncle. Well, now, all of a sudden, guess what? Ron Paul, not only is he the father of the Tea Party that won the majority of the House for Republicans in the 2010 midterms, but he's the father of so much of the discussion about the budget, about the debt ceiling, about taxes right now. This is the age of Ron Paul.
This is my official endorsement for Dr. Ron Paul for president in 2012. This is a revolution. This is a philosophical revolution. It's a revolution of the mind. Because whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, if you're in America and you've been listening to the message that you've been given, you recognize that it's not about racial slavery. We're facing a new monster, a new type of slavery, an upgraded version of the plantation. And the way the media is playing towards the black people's fears of their past and being slaves for 450 years, they're keeping them in a perpetual fight with the past without keeping them looking forward to the slavery that's coming, to the money masters who are cracking the whips, not the white masters on the plantation. We're far from those days.
So, he's a real player in this race now. He's being treated differently, and frankly by me as well as a lot of other people this time. I think he was seen as kind of a fringe candidate 4 years ago, but he's a real player in the GOP race this time. He hasn't changed his views, but the Republican Party has.
You don't seem like a Republican to me, like that I've ever heard. You seem so reasonable. No, honestly, you really do. You seem to make sense, which I don't attribute to very many politicians.
I just want to say, having campaigned during the last presidential election, you had the most enthusiastic supporters of anybody I ever saw.
I'd love to hear that.
Well, I mean, my goodness, everywhere I went, they were literally running down highways holding your signs. Now, I've never had a chance to tell you that, but your message obviously resonated with a lot of people.
Thank you.
Who's the leading candidate for the Republicans for 2012?
I don't know. Has the New York Times picked him for us yet?
I don't know. I keep hearing
the last one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't see the Times.
No thoughts?
Today.
No thoughts?
I think Ron Paul.
I don't want to see nobody else. Leave your guard down. Don't listen to what everybody says. Don't even listen to what I say. Do your research, man. But that's why I'm going back to Ron. That's why I'm going to get back to Ron Paul and why I support him. Because every time I didn't see this dude, he's been making perfect sense about the health care, about the wars, about the Federal Reserve. All of this stuff is just on point, man. And I didn't fact check the dude and everything. Everything he has said has been truth. And a lot of stuff Obama has said has been lies.
Statement you made in the banking committee
yes.
on September 10th, 2003. In fact, I reprinted the whole thing in my book. I want Americans who hear leaders saying every day, we could have never seen this coming. This was a shock. How did this happen? I want to read what you said 5 years before the collapse. The special privileges granted to Fannie and Freddie have distorted the housing market by allowing them to attract capital that they could not attract under pure market conditions. Like all artificially created bubbles, the boom in housing prices cannot last forever. When housing prices fall, homeowners will experience difficulty as their equity is wiped out. Furthermore, the holders of the mortgage debt will also have a loss. These losses will be greater than they would have otherwise been had government policy not actively encouraged overinvesting in housing. And you go on to say, because so many people will invest in housing, the damage will be catastrophic. Congressman, how could it be that you knew this on the banking committee in 2003 and nobody else did until after the collapse?
You seem to be among the very few people, Republican or Democrat, who's willing to come in at least to a public theater like this one and engage in a conversation about the actual problem. There are so few of you. Why is the debate not run by more people like you that are debating trillion-dollar issues that we actually have, as opposed to this pro wrestling?
In terms of moving the argument, moving the conversation on not only drugs, but Afghanistan, personal liberty, the debt, that's all Ron Paul. To me, it's like a revelation, and it's just becoming clearer and clearer about this thing. I keep saying age of Ron Paul. I don't mean to bore you, but I mean, wait a minute. You look at that CNN poll, and then combine it with this, Judge. You were asking about votes. Remember, what I do for you is I analyze politics. Right. And right now, the key inside the Republican Party is who can raise money. And right now, Ron Paul just exploded what he calls his money bomb, $1 million at the end of last week.
I'm personally endorsing Ron Paul for President of the United States for 2012.